brief overview. So when I'm done, I'll come back and join you all, and then we'll do a Q&A and you can ask questions if there's any questions left that you have for me. So I'm just going to shut off my camera for a second and share screen and go through my presentation. All right, I'm assuming you all can hear me and see me. And Loretta can let me know if there's an issue. So I will go on. As I said, my name is Kate Hoy. I'm with the Washington PTAC. And today we'll be talking about UEI numbers and how to get one. UEI numbers are created by the SAM database. Move this out of the way here. We'll discuss what SAM is and registration basics and where to turn if you run into issues. And also resources in case you do run into those issues. First of all, what is a PTAC? PTACs are procurement technical assistance centers. PTACs are located all over the United States. We're funded in part by the Department of Defense. And the main mission of PTACs is to connect small businesses with government contracting opportunities. We've got 8 centers across the state. As I mentioned, Grace Harbor is part of the territory that I cover. Each center offers workshops, personal one-on-one advising, matchmaking, and a lot more. So no matter where you are in government contracting, your local PTAC advisor can help you navigate the process. So today we're going to talk specifically about UEI numbers, but no UEI discussion can be complete without talking about SAM. So SAM is the Systems Award Management Database. It's the database that's used by federal government agencies, employees, and suppliers. They all use this database. The database is managed by the General Service Administration, or GSA, and is used by many agencies and for many different purposes. So today we're focusing on what's relevant to suppliers or service providers, which would be you all. So suppliers in general may be interested in SAM in order to look up contracts or information on contract data. They also want the ability to get paid from a federal contract or a federal grant. Invoicing starts in sam.gov. If you want to look up current opportunities for contracting, you would go to sam.gov. You would also go there to obtain a CAGE code, and you will also go to sam.gov to obtain your UEI number. So to review, SAM is for you if you want to sell products or services to the federal government. I don't know if anyone here is interested in that, just in case. If you want to respond to a grant opportunity in grants.gov, or if you just want to obtain a UEI number. So I'm just going to quickly talk about terms that relate to sam.gov for this presentation. One is CAGE code. That's a commercial and government entity code. It's an identifier assigned to suppliers who are doing business with federal agencies. You will know if you need one. It'll be told to you. A UEI is a unique entity identifier that replaced the DUNS numbers this year. So DUNS numbers are no longer used. They've been replaced with the UEI number. And an entity, when we use the word entity in the SAM space, it's simply your company, your business is what an entity is. All right, so this presentation is very high level and it's targeted towards you, businesses that are looking for just a UEI number. Again, there are many uses for SAM. So if you want more in-depth information or you're looking for something more than what we're talking about today, please refer to either the SAM help guides or contact me at any time and we can go deeper. Okay, so in brief, the SAM process is going to have 3 distinct steps. The first one is you will be creating a user account. You'll be creating a login. You will get your entity validated. There's an initial entity validation process that you will be going through. And you may go on to register your entity in SAM, depending on why you need your UEI. So you'll discover or think about why you need your UEI number. What is your purpose? Once you complete step 1, which is you created your login, your user account, then you'll be able to go to sam.gov and log in. This is where you're going to have the opportunity to register your entity. So I'm going to go through the 3 options that you have when registering your entity or getting a UEI. All of these options, you end up with a UEI number. So let's go over what the options are. 1, the most complicated option is if you are interested in federal contracts. Again, I don't know if any of the audience is interested in this, but if you are, if you want to sell products or services to any federal agency, you will choose this option. In order to get awarded a contract, as opposed to a grant, you will need to register in SAM under this option. You will need to prepare before you start because it's a lengthy process. I do have companion easy guides for instructions. If this is relevant to you, just let me know. And you also can have PTAC help you through the process if this is one of the options that you're interested in. Another option that will come up when you're at sam.gov and registering your entity is for grants. If you're only looking for financial assistance only and you want to get a federal grant directly, then this is an option that you can choose. For instance, if you are looking at grants.gov or some site like that where they're having direct federal grants available. It is important to know that SAM is where the invoicing process starts for federal agencies. So you will need to be legally established, whether you want just a UEI number or grants and contracts. And you also need to have a bank account if you are registering for the contracts or the grants option. Again, I do have an easy guide available for you for this method of applying or registering in SAM, if this is relevant to you. So for today, and I think most of you are interested in just getting a UEI to satisfy a state grant that you're looking at. If you only need a UEI number and you do not anticipate direct funding from the federal agency, then we can pick this choice. This process will only take you minutes. Once you've created your login and you've signed into sam.gov and you've come to this point, you're choosing this option, you could have this process over in 5 to 10 minutes. It's very quick. Since you do not have to actually register in the SAM database for this option, the process will go very quickly. So this option may be required, as you all are finding out, by sub-recipients of federal grants, such as state agencies. The UEI number is used by the state agency who's moving the grant through to check on your entity to ensure that you're not disbarred from receiving federal funding. That's the point of the UEI and what they're using it for. So when you choose this option where you want a UEI number only, then you will be asked for basic company information, such as your company name and your company address. Then the system will search all these databases to see if it can locate your company. This is a validation process to ensure that you do in fact have a legally established business and you have a legitimate address. That's what this is checking. You will choose, like I did here, you will choose the company that matches who you are, and then you'll continue on to the next screen and you'll literally be assigned a UEI in minutes. It will happen automatically after that. It'll come up and you're done. You may hit a snag. I don't know how many of you are familiar with sam.gov, but it's going through a lot of changes this year. This isn't the only change that's going on. So there are some issues with the database I'll just warn you about. If you do hit a snag, for instance, maybe your company doesn't come up at all. Maybe the address that is listed is wrong. If you do encounter these kinds of issues while you're on the site, you will be able to create an incident ticket directly with the SAM help desk, right from the screen where you are. It'll take you through the process. But here are some things to consider and think about while you're going through and some kind of tips and tricks. You may already have an account. So if you have applied for a federal grant in the past, if you've been at all intersected with the federal government. You may already have an account in SAM.gov. If you do, you already have a UEI number. It was automatically assigned to you. So on SAM.gov, if there's any doubt in your mind, you can go to the entity information search option in SAM and just look for your business name to confirm if you're wondering if you're already in there. The name and address that you match or want to put into SAM should match the name and address you're using for your state application. So just make sure everything lines up and matches all together. If for some reason they cannot find your business name, or it's not the correct business name, or the address is different, SAM is going to ask you for proof of identity. The best proof of identity for you to send them is your articles of incorporation that you filed with the state. And I'll give you a link to that, and you can look up your name and download it. This is by far the best document. It will include your business name, your correct physical address, as well as the date and state of incorporation, which is what SAM will want to know. One thing to note is if your address is wrong on the state filing, you'll need to fix that first, then go back in and upload this document. So there will be obstacles. I can't list all the obstacles that can occur. There's a myriad of them since the database is going through so many changes. So if you do encounter anything and you're unable to reconcile the issue with SAM directly, or it seems that SAM is taking a while to reconcile your issue, contact PTAC and we may be able to escalate it, especially if you're getting close to the deadline date of the grant. So just let us know that right away. And we've got some things that we can do to escalate the issue. I created a little 3-step guide, which Loretta put into the chat. Basically, it's got the links of what I talked about, how to go to create a user account, and then go to SAM and check in and get started and choose your purpose of registration to be UEI number only. 3 steps. Basically, you can contact Washington PTAC for any issues at all that touches government contracting. I just want to remind you, you can visit us at washingtonptac.org where you can be a client. We offer no cost assistance at any time. So that's a rough overview. I'm going to come back and join you all right now, and then we can see what kind of questions that people might have. Figure out what my little stop share is. There we go. Okay. So let me hear from some of you and let me know if this makes sense and if it seemed to help clear up what you might run across. What do you think, Caleb?
And the reason why we created this urgent workshop, Kate and all of you joining us, is because we know that Kate called them subrecipients. I say it's if you're downstream from federal dollars, and sometimes you don't know that money originated with the federal government. You may think that Greater Grace Harbor wrote you a check, or the county wrote you a check, or the city of XYZ wrote you a business relief check, but really the money started in the federal government. And when we were doing the CARES dollars last year and beyond, I guess, this wasn't a requirement. We had to see your EINs or your UBIs to give to distribute those dollars, but there's been a shift, and correct me if I don't articulate this the right way. There's been a shift that a UIN will be required. So the Department of Commerce has a festival and events grant active right now that closes July 8th, that a UEI, not an EIN, and an EIN, I guess, will be required. And Kate, do you know, I heard that it's not required to apply, but it will be required to receive.
To receive, yes, because, and I don't know, we don't do grants. We just help on the SAM, so I don't know, I haven't read no real detail about it, but they may want it in application process. But yes, when you're awarded, you've got to be cleared of that disbarment, and this is how they do it, is they're using the UEI for checking if you're able to get federal funding. And
this is my instinct based on experience, not on any fact that's coming in, but my instinct is because the DUNS was sunsetted and UEI is launching, there was a decision made not to require it on the front end of the application, but on the receiving end, because they knew the applicant community wouldn't have the time to respond to this change.
Awesome.
I can tell you, as someone that's had a community development block grant, that I've been pushing out dollars to micro enterprises, so 5 employees or less, including the owner. A DUNS number was required on the front end of the application. If you didn't have a DUNS number, you failed before I even could review all your materials. I would venture to guess that the UEI will be required on the front end once people are more accustomed to this new standard. That's my gut instinct.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And we're hearing it's taking 2 weeks to get a response.
Well, that's why I covered the other reasons for purpose of registration.
Yeah.
If you're doing UIE number only, and I've helped a couple of people with this, and you see your name on there, it's done in minutes, literally minutes. It's painless. The user account setup is easy to do. That'll happen automatically right away as you're going through like a normal user account. And when you pick that third option, it's only when you start running into issues, the address was wrong or your name wasn't on there at all, that it will be delayed. So yes.
And so I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, Kate, that if a business has never tried to register with SAM at all, they've never engaged with government contracts, that is a situation where it could take 2 weeks.
Nope. What the databases that the validation does not check SAM.
Okay.
If the only thing is, if you might be in SAM already and already have a UEI number and not even realize it. In the past, if you had done something and then you just go get your UEI, that was assigned you automatically behind the scenes.
Yep.
But the databases that it checks are a myriad. It's what DUNS used to check, actually, just a whole bunch of stuff to verify that, but not SAM. They might check Secretary of State.
Got it.
They're going to check whatever else to see that you're a legitimate setup business. And that you have a legitimate address. So it checks PO boxes and post offices and that sort of thing. It just does this massive database search for you.
So if you're new, it can still be an almost immediate. It's if there's discrepancies in your contact info. Okay, that's good news then.
Exactly. Yep.
So nonetheless, this is the new way we're going, and we want the business community to be informed and to go through this process. It doesn't hurt you to have a UEI number in any way, right? So it does. It makes you more able to be responsive to financial opportunities and funding, and even doing business with the government. If you and no business is probably too small for that. So I encourage you to stay in touch with Kate if you see an opportunity. So the updates I have on funding opportunities. And I'll talk about the funding opportunities, and then we'll address Rob's question in the chat. There's a current Commerce Festival and Events grant that closes on the 8th. Hopefully everybody in our county that is eligible is considering applying. The second thing is Working Washington 5. The parameters for Working Washington 5 have not been disclosed to us being chambers of commerce and economic development councils. We don't know what those parameters are going to be yet, but we do know a UEI will be required at minimum on the receiving end, if not on the application end. That is likely to open, I bet, shortly, mid-July to August. So get this done in advance so it's off your plate, because the application period is probably going to be 2 weeks. And in that 2 weeks, you're going to have to get this number. You're going to have to pull together your financials. You're going to have to complete the application. And by the way, you still need to run your business. So give yourself the breathing room to do this application and not be pushed up against any type of deadline. And then the other grant that is not active right now, but we will probably relaunch in the fall, is the Community Development Block Grant, or you'll hear us call it the CDBG grant. It's a mouthful. It has to be for micro enterprises, 5 employees or less, including the owner, that had documented COVID-19 negative impact on their business. So we had that open. We started in October of 21 and we opened and closed it twice with limited applications. And I think the reason why is because you have to pull your financials together. You have to be able to document COVID-19 impact. So you're looking at 2 years of tax returns for your business, but also to be eligible, it also reflects on your household income. So it is a more challenging grant to qualify for, but the investment backed into you is $10,000. So we really do want folks trying to apply and thinking about it. And we have business coaching, we have coaches to help you do the application setup for that as well. So watch for that. The best way to know what's coming, the absolute best way, there's 2 ways. Subscribe to our Harbor Insider newsletter, which some of you I know are already on. And then on our website, we have a COVID-19 resources tab. It's in red, it's in the top right corner of our page. Anytime you wonder about resources out there, go to that page, click on it. Whatever's active is on there, whatever's closed is gone. We've wiped off stuff that's outdated. So those are the 2 best ways to do it. And we sometimes do press releases, we do email blast, our Harbor Insider list. We call all our mayors, all our city council members. We call people like Tanya, our colleagues in chamber work. We just get as much information out. And then the ball's in your court, and you as businesses need to see if you can apply for that. So that's what I know is coming down the pike. It looks like some questions are there. So I'm gonna shut my mouth and let Caleb and Rob ask their questions.
So we have,
do you want me?
yeah, go ahead. If I think I answered Rob's that, yeah, everything needs to match your, what it is now has to be matching when you apply.
Yeah, what I would advise on the name match is how your name is on the state application. So everything matches. So whatever you're using on that grant to put it through, the address and the name and how you've done the name on the grant, exactly like Inc. or whatever you've got as your company name should match the application grant. I don't know what requirements are in the grant for your name, what they check. So sometimes if you're looking at the list that comes up for SAM, it might be easier to change the name on your grant than it is going to change it in SAM. So it just depends on what the grant is, but just make sure that it can go down the line and that the grant matches the SAM name. Does that make sense? Did that answer that question?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
I worry about my doing business as name. I just got to go back and look at the documents and see what's on there, see if our LLC is on there. Plus
Yep,
doing
exactly.
business, it might be all together on one line. We have Horton Tree Farm and Nursery doing business as the Organic Farm and Apiary. So, okay, I'll just have to look at that.
Doing business as can be tricky. So those do need to be included on there. So yeah, hopefully that those are the kinds of issues that could solve or could create some snag down the line. Yep. There was another question. Does the UEI replace UBI or EIN for the purpose of Grants Act? They do not. They're all completely different purposes. The UBI is a state thing. So that's to give your business a number on a state level that you're a legal entity. And then EIN is for tax paying purposes. So those are their own things. They got their own reasons for existing. And then the UEI has got its own thing, which is the whole debarment, making sure that you're eligible for federal funding and you haven't done anything in the past that would make you not eligible. Let's see, if we register for grants from Fed, let's see, Caleb, can you clarify what you're asking?
Yeah, so you mentioned in the slideshow there that there's basically 3 different options to register to be like a vendor for the federal government, to get grants from the federal government, and then just to apply for the UEI to get grants from like sub-grantors. So if we were to apply for the grants from the federal government, would that get us the UEI that we need to get grants from the sub-grantors like Greater Grace Harbor?
Yeah, if you wanted to go through the process to register as a contractor, And you don't actually get grants from sam.gov. You have to go to grants.gov to do grants, but either way, you'll end up with a UEI regardless of which one you pick. They're far more complicated. So
Okay.
so this one, you know, you're looking at way more. And those right now for contracting, and I don't know grants, we don't do a lot of grants, but I'm assuming it's similar. We're looking 4, 5, 6 weeks. It's way out. It's a mess. So you would, at this time, you might avoid that unless you got something that you're looking at specifically.
Perfect. That sounds good.
And just
Right.
to clarify, Caleb, the financial relief, there's going to be grants at grants.gov that you apply, you know, you can search grants.gov and see if there's any body of work that you do that you would like a federal agency to invest in you. But the grants we're talking that I'm specifically speaking about are financial relief grants as a result of COVID that originate with the feds. They're part of ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act dollars, or any allocation that came in our state government. Those are going to come from Department of Commerce, will probably be the lead. Relevant industry nonprofits. So Department of Commerce might say, you know, in this festival and events grant, for example, they have Washington Festival and Events Association helping with that. And then maybe the county might have some, your local cities might have some. And then there's a chance that somebody could use Greater Grays Harbor as an intermediary. You would, and we'd push out dollars. You would not go to grants.gov to find those localized COVID relief dollars.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
The request for the UEI in the grant is a signal that there's federal money, it's a federal money backed grant that kind of gets, that's the signal of that. But yeah, it's flowing through other hands. Grants.gov are only direct federal grants or money.
Any other
More questions?
questions?
Are you guys okay now, feeling comfortable getting your UEI? Does everyone feel good about it?
It's not as overwhelming as I expected it to be.
Yeah.
I have done federal grants where I register with grants.gov, I go to SAM, I do all those things, and this is not as paralyzing as I expected it to be. So that's good.
Well, I tried to pull out the steps so you don't have to wade through. It can get intimidating when you're on sam.gov and you're going to help and all that. And there's so much information because the site does so many things. So if we just focus, there's really only 3 steps. And hopefully there won't be a snag. But, you know, there might be.
And I know Jimmy, is that your name? You came in late a little bit, so you missed part of the presentation. We are recording it, so we can probably get that out to you. You're muted.
Jim, we're missing what you're saying because you've been muted the whole time.
You have to unmute yourself.
You're muted. So look in the bottom. If you're on your phone, look in the bottom left corner for our microphone and click on it.
Hello?
There you go.
There you are.
Yeah. So I was kind of like late. I forgot completely about this because I just had a meeting and I finished and I just came over here. So I missed quite a bit, about like almost 30 minutes of all session. I missed it. How go through all of these grants and stuff. So
Yeah, and Loretta said it's recorded, so we'll get this recording out to everybody.
okay.
Yeah, great. And Jim, just so we can make sure you're in our database, what business did you register under?
It's Olympic Indian Suites Aberdeen.
Gotcha. You're in here, so we have your email. You're good. We'll get it out to you.
Yep.
Oh.
All right, any other questions for our guest speaker, for Kate or for anybody here?
Yeah, I could use a little quick short recap here. I'm looking at, I did a quick screen capture. The 3 steps: create your user account, get entity validated, and then register entity. Does that cover everything, or is there something else other than that needs to be done? And all I'm trying to do is I just want to be ready to go should there be a grant that comes out that fits my needs and I qualify for. So I just want to make sure this isn't going to hold me up. So what, is that all I need to do is those 3 steps? You're muted.
Oh, you're muted, Katie.
Sorry. In your case, if you only want a UEI, which will pertain to the grants that Lynette's talking about, you will not actually end up registering in SAM. So when you go to in SAM and it says register entity, it's going to give you those 3 choices: contracts, grants, or UEI only. When you do UEI only, which is what you all are looking at, you're not actually going into the SAM database to register. You're just getting a number, which is far easier than the other 2 options. I'm only mentioning the other 2 options because they come up a lot and people are talking about the SAM being behind a month and all this mess that's going on. It mostly has to do with those other 2 options. So if you aren't getting money direct, which these grants are not direct money, and you only need a UEI, then download the attachment that's in the chat, and you literally just use your account, pick UEI only, and hope your name shows up in the list.
Okay. So if I select,
And then,
if I
and then
select federal
correct it.
grant or federal contract, does that supersede the need for having this done if I was just looking for a grant? Or,
I don't know.
do you select both, or?
You select one or I mean, if you do contracting, it will, you can do anything. You can do grants. If you choose the contracting one, you can go for grants. You always get a UEI number with any of these options. But the contracting one is extremely complicated and taking a very long time. And it's up to you if you want to do that. You can do that, but it's very complicated. So I kind of went through orders of complexity to least complex. And then the grant one is the next least complex. And then just getting the UEI alone is the most easy. So it depends on your ultimate purpose of what you're doing as a business owner. If you're just going after the grants Lynette's talking about and they're flowing through the state and you're not looking at federal contracting directly, just get the UEI only. If you have the time and the energy where you do want to contract with the feds, contact me and we'll go. There's more of a conversation to have about that. There's a lot to think about and talk about. So I can help you with that process.
You just scared me away from that one. Time and energy I don't have.
It's pretty intense. You definitely want to, what PTAC will do if you are looking at it is we just have a meeting and go with you of what you're thinking about. And we kind of review if it's a good choice or not, because there's just so much to consider and think about.
Just to give you an idea of my concern for our business is I'm not sure of, like, let's see, how do I spit it out? School, in case like a local school wants my produce. Is that considered a federal contract or a state contract?
It depends. So if it's coming from a school district and they're buying it from you, it depends. It could be all state money. More than likely what I've seen, it is state money and this is not relevant to you. You'll be fine. If it's a contract and it's going through the school, probably you just need a UEI number because that's not a direct federal agency. Schools aren't federal agencies. They're
Well, I would assume, like, as an example, if they got federal funding for food programs, but maybe it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work. Yeah, it's not direct. So you probably just need a UEI only. If it's indirect money, it's UEI only.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Yeah,
So
which is what you want. That's good.
Yeah, I'll just go for the grant option then.
For the UEI only option.
Oh,
You guys
I would select grants though.
No, you're picking UEI only. Forget the grants. The grants are just for direct federal.
Yeah, that's, I think, where we're getting stuck is we're talking about, we brought you here to talk about being ready for grants that are coming from the state or maybe local government or us. The grants from the feds are direct and they're much more complicated. And yes, some of you may have an interest in doing a grant with the federal government, but you're going to deliver services upon that grant based on what the grant requirements are. We want people to be aware of the financial relief grants that you won't even know they started in the feds by the way they're marketed until you get to the application and they ask for this number that you haven't seen before.
Thank you. Got it.
Cody, does that answer your questions?
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah. I don't want to say none of you would get a grant from the government, because maybe you would. I don't know everything you do, but very complicated, and to Kate's point, direct dollars. And you deliver certain services in the right word, but you deliver on that funding, and you're applying to kind of do work for the government.
Yeah, and I could eliminate that from my presentation. The only problem is there's so much swirling around SAM that I wanted you to just know those three options. But in your guys' case, if it's not direct money, all you need is a UEI number. And it tells you that right in the state commerce grant, that all you need is a UEI number. If you were actually looking at a grant, which was federal, there's pages of what you got to do. It's obvious that you have to go in and apply for the grant part, and it's obvious that there's a lot more to it. But the ones that you're looking at, it's just a line that says you need a UEI number. You're good. That's all you got to do is get a UEI number. It'll be very, very clear when you need more than that in the grant.
So the grants option is really for federal grants, not state grants.
Only federal grants. SAM has only to do with federal, nothing to do with state, right?
I will highlight
Except-
UEI only.
UEI only. And that's what the PDF that I put, that will take you just through the UEI only process. If you just follow that, you're not getting into any other rabbit hole. Just do the UEI only process and you'll be fine.
I can do
I
that.
can email that out to you too, Rob, if it didn't copyright. I can
Yeah, if
get
it just takes a few minutes, I would like to just knock this out now and get it behind me. I've got crops to harvest.
So thank you, Kate, for joining us today. I don't know, do we have any other questions? I appreciate your time and everybody's time for coming in and getting a little bit of an overview of the what you guys are going to need if you do apply for grants with us or with somebody else, other agencies in our area. Any closing thoughts, Lynette?
Nope, we're good. Thank you.
Kate, Lynette, Loretta, thank you. You guys do a lot of work.